Hello, everybody, and welcome to End to End, the podcast where we talk about all things pony and few things not. Joining me today is Joel The Rock Linksys. Links?
That's a new one.
Welcome to the show, buddy. The Ultimate Warrior, Cabralo95.
Wait, since when can I hold a sword? I don't trust myself with a butter knife.
Macho Man Lightning Rabbit.
He's a stick.
Yeah. Oh yeah!
And Duhad. Hi.
Talking to
Yeah,
yourself
he's thinking
again,
something slightly more
Duhad. See,
interesting.
this is why he's in the podcast, because he had no one to talk to if it wasn't for us.
Yeah, pretty much.
Macho Man Rabbit wants to know what you gonna do when you don't have any friends.
Bad boy, what you gonna do? What you gonna
I'd also
do?
like to just quickly apologise. For some weird reason, I got two cups and started pouring water between them right next to the microphone.
Wait, what?
I'm sorry.
Well,
You people are so bloody random. I'm not entirely sure why I did that. That was an accidental
Mostly
thing. Okay, continue.
Lightning and I are probably the most random in this group right now.
Of course.
I was about to say when you said yeah, I'm like, AR, you can't speak about that.
I can speak about many things.
Because you are the essence of randomness.
I love it. Apparent randomness. AR.
well,
Duhad, would you like to tell us what we're going to be talking about today?
well, last week we talked about Season 3 as a whole. I thought today might be an interesting opportunity to talk a little bit about how it all began with Season 1, Episode 1 and 2.
Woo!
And then after that, maybe get into a little bit about a fan fiction we've all recently read. So,
Sweet.
why don't we start out with Season 1, though? Who here started watching the show from the beginning?
I did. Well, sort of. Because it was weird for me, because what happened was I was online. This was back in early or late. No, this was very, very late 2011, just before the turn of the year. And I was online. I found a couple random videos, and there was a pony. I didn't know who it was. It was Twilight Sparkle, and she was saying, "Tell me why I shouldn't kill you right now." I'm like, that was weird. Went on, and I'm like, what is this from? And then so I found the first thing I find, Friendship is Witchcraft. And I started watching the beginning of it. I'm like, this is terrible. So I stopped watching that. Some months later, I saw one of my friends on Skype had pony pictures on his profile and stuff like that. I'm like, why the hell do you have ponies on your Skype? He's like, well, because it's a good show. I'm like, this is a show about what? He's like, yeah, it's the newest My Little Pony. I'm like, My Little Pony. Anyway, essentially, basically, after a while of bantering, he said, go ahead and check out the show and give it a chance. I'm like, fine. But if I don't like it, I shall be making fun of you for a very long time. In different reasons than I would make fun of you normally. Which is why I make fun of people anyways. So I watched the first episode. And at the end of it, I was like, crap. That was decently entertaining. Where's episode 2? So yes, I started off essentially watching the first 2 episodes, is what the whole point of my story is. And then Red
And
Riding Hood
though
came
through the dawn of time he watched them all at once, and it was 5 in the morning.
It was
Oh, lordy.
Actually, that ties into my story, if we're going to go off on that sort of thing.
Yay!
Yeah, go ahead.
Story
Yes.
time! Yay!
Gather round, children.
Gather around,
Um,
children. Are you going to
Listen
tell
to
us
the
this?
Lightning Rabbit's brownie story.
Are you going to tell
Right,
us a story,
basically.
Uncle Rabbit?
Of course, son. Sit down.
Of course,
Stop
son.
eating sugar.
I love
right.
sugar.
Right. Basically, it all started one fateful night. Actually, no, it started before that fateful night. So basically, what happened was I was looking around and I saw a picture, and I think it was this is me giving a fuck picture with Twilight in it, and I was like, what is this?
What is
Intriguing.
this?
And after a little while, I was like, oh, I realised this is a show, and I thought, well, I could watch it and see what it does. And I watched the first episode, and I thought, well, I should probably watch the second one. No one, introduced it to me. I just kind of introduced myself to it. And I watched the second episode because it was a 2-parter, and then I proceeded to watch the entire first season in one night. And woke up and didn't go to bed until a ridiculous hour in the morning. And that, I'm guessing, means that I got into this fairly early because I remember waiting around at the very end of season 1 for season 2. I think I got around just at the very last episode of season 1.
Yeah, I came around when season 2 was just starting, and I think the Derpy episode, it was the very first brand new episode I actually watched. Because
Muffins.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like if we're all going to go through our stories of how we became to be, it should be my time.
Auntie Joel is giving us his lecture on how he became a Brody.
Did you just say Auntie Joe?
No. Yeah.
I'm not your aunt.
Fine, you can live in the ant
related
farm.
to you.
I hope he's not related to me.
Me
Wow.
either. I don't want to be that insane. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't think it would work. Okay, yes.
Okay, so I was on Facebook about the time 2012,
AD.
really early 2012.
2012
And
AD.
Someone had shown me and
Oh.
was telling me that Lauren Faust, the person who made the Powerpuff Girls, has made a new television show and that I should check it out. And they linked me the Discord episode, and I watched the first 5 minutes of the beginning of it. Well, I came in around the point where they burst into Princess Celestia's castle, and they were talking to Discord. And I turned it off at that point. Like, this is weird. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not weird. I mean, I can't talk. Anyway, fast forward a couple months later, I start seeing all these brony stuff, mostly the MOV guy. And I saw the Apples thing when it first came out. I'm like, I remember this. This is that pony show. And this is making fun of it. And then I started seeing all these videos coming up with people who watch the show and get addicted in like one view of the show. And I'm like, all right, I don't mind because I'm a big critic of cartoons. Let's take a look at this. And so I sit down at 1 in the morning.
Yay, AM.
Well, 12 in the morning.
Yay, AM.
Yeah.
Regardless, and I start watching it, and I'm like, okay, it's pretty cute and ponies, and the Giggle of the Ghosty song was torturous to me the first time
Same.
listening to it.
It's
Oh,
hard.
yeah.
It's like, oh God, make it stop. And at the end, I'm like, okay, let's keep watching. And my father came home around 2. Like, oh shit, I thought I'm not done yet. And so when I watched a little telly with my family, I came back down and watched the rest of season 1. And I watched season 2 in a matter of hours as
So
well.
this was when season 2 was all done?
Well, no. The first episode I saw live, the first episode I saw
Brand new?
on time with everyone was the one where Pinkie Pie is babysitting
Oh,
the folds.
what episode is that? Is that
Oh,
like
yeah.
18 or 19, I think? It's a bit later
Yes.
in, because I came in season 2, episode 14, which is Derpy's very first line ever. It was the brand new episode I saw.
Yeah, and the thing was about the show was I really liked it, and then I started seeing all the things that the people who made who watched the show as fans were making, and that really showed me a lot, especially after this is gonna sound stupid, but I absolutely adored My Little Dashie when it first came out.
I did as well.
yeah.
That was the first fan fiction I ever read.
I was like depressed for like a week or so.
He's like, Dashie!
And I did listen to the Mike the Microphone version. That's
I
the one
listened
that I
to
read.
the other guy, Azura, or whatever his name is.
I like
And
oh, sorry, go ahead, Joel.
and I started seeing seeing all the voice acting and stuff, and I got into reharmonized ponies, and that's how I became a pony voice actor. Now go on, Lightning.
All I was going to say was about the My Little Dash thing. The number of people who said, "What kind of monster are you?" when I said I wasn't emotionally moved by that, like to tears or anything.
I
They were
don't. I don't care if anyone's like not
Yeah.
emotional to it. I just can feel for the father character a
Yeah.
lot
Oh no,
because
I could, like,
I could put myself in their shoes and like, my God, that's a
I guess it's
horrible
because
thing.
I can't relate to it because particularly the whole thing of like, I mean, the place I live isn't too bad, so I can't really relate to the area that you lived in,
Yeah,
and I
same here.
definitely can't relate to finding an orphaned pony.
I
in the
can't
middle of the
relate to
street.
finding an orphan pony. Oh.
And some of the decisions, I don't know, it just didn't really speak to me the way other stories did, and that's fine. But there were a few, like, I've met people where I was like, oh, okay, I wasn't actually moved by this. Like some people were, like when I listened to the reading where the guy cries at the end of it, I didn't feel anything like that
Yeah.
for it, and everyone was like, oh, you must be some sort of heartless monster if you didn't cry.
Well, if you say that,
Right,
then
I
should
just
say
didn't-
the author is a heartless monster because he's the one who actually doesn't even like the story he wrote.
Rob
Yeah.
Jaker and
Yeah, he
Yeah.
doesn't like his own story, so
Hmm.
you say hi to him again.
Yeah.
Bug him.
Strange twist of fate. But yes, season 1 was it we were on about.
Yeah, actually, I was going to mention, how I figured out, since everyone seems to be going over the stories of how they
Oh
got.
yeah, of course, yeah.
Oh, darn it.
Yeah, just because I introduced all of you doesn't mean that that's the end of my contribution to the
Yeah,
podcast.
Yes,
you
it
don't
is.
actually do anything else. for the
And
rest
go
of
away,
this.
Duhad. We're talking now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Actually, the funny thing is, I'm listening to you guys tell your stories. I'm like, my story about this is actually kind of different than yours in a lot of ways. Partly because I didn't come in until much later than you guys. Like most of you came in somewhere in the middle of season 2 or the end of season 1.
Uh-huh.
I didn't actually come into it until the summer after
Season
season
two?
2 had
Oh,
finished, in
really?
between 2 and 3. Yeah. I actually mentioned to you before, Cabral, that I started getting into Muffin Productions around the summer, and the reason for that was about the time I actually got to the fandom. Your site was actually the first one I really. It was the first fan site, along with I think Friendship is Witchcraft, that I actually started following.
No.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway, point is, the thing is, I heard about the fandom significantly before I actually got into it, and my reaction was, pretty much what most people when they first hear about was, which is essentially, wait, grown men, ponies,
What?
really?
Uh-huh.
That's kind of funny. And then basically what happened was I had all these people around me who were like, "Haha, have you heard about this thing? It's hilarious." I'm like, "Yeah, no, I heard about it. It's kind of funny." Yeah, seriously, it's hilarious. Like, no, it's just mildly amusing. Seriously, like these guys are like gay or something. Like, no, they're just fans of a show. Honestly, it's not really that surprising when you think about it. It's just people enjoying themselves. And eventually I got to the point where I was like, you know what? I am so sick of people bashing the fans of the show. I just want to check it out to see what the whole deal is.
Uh-huh.
But I was sort of like on the fence about it. I was actually starting to get kind of depressed. I was at like a point where I was just sort of very low energy, not very happy. And I ended up finding a couple of people who I followed for other reasons. CR from That Guy with the Glasses and SF Debris from SF Debris did reviews of the show and essentially were like, okay, actually, it's pretty good. And then a friend of mine basically came to me and said, hey, I hear you're not really, in like a great mood right now, and you're kind of looking for something to kill time with. I've been watching this show. It's actually pretty good. Give it a try. And I'm like, okay, you know what? At this point, my choices are between, spend the evening getting drunk and passing out or, just watch a kid show. I'll take the kid show, thanks. So I watched the first episode, like, okay, that's all right. It's not that bad. Watched the second, but it's like, okay, I don't know if I'm going to finish this. And then I got to the ending, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm not sold, but I am sold on wanting to see the end of the story. So I finished season 2, like episode 2 of the intro, and I was like, okay, still not 100% sold on the show, but I am sold enough to watch episode 3. And I watched episode 3, and I was like, okay, sold. Ticketmaster sold me. I was like,
Sold to the man in the back.
Sold! Because it's
which is actually exactly what happened with me when I started watching the show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I kind of like watched the first episode, meh. Second episode, okay, I'll check out the third episode. Third episode, I'm on board. I'm good.
Done.
3
but-
is the magic number for Too Hard.
Yeah, pretty much. But the thing was, I actually didn't get into the fandom or any of the fan stuff until I essentially I watched season 1 on YouTube. I was like, okay, I just finished season 1. I have to buy season 1 now, and I'm gonna pick up season 2. And then after I'd finished season 1, but before I started season 2, I went to a local convention here in Portland, Maine.
The only
called
one they've had
PortCon.
in the past
Don't you
decade.
say it, AR.
What?
No more main insults.
Aww.
Anyway, I went to PortCon, and there was a panel there for the show, and I actually went there with I was waiting in line. A couple of friends of mine who were really against the show got in line with me and basically started just
Oh, yeah,
ripping
you were
on
telling me this story.
everyone. Yeah, they just started ripping on everyone in the line. I was like, oh god. Oh god! And then like the doors open, I'm like, I'm gonna go in there and take a nap on one of the chairs. And they're like, okay, we're gonna come in with you and start ripping on these guys even more because this is fun. Like,
For God's sake.
oh god! So I went in, like sitting through the
Trolls.
thing. I was like sitting there like for the first like 10 minutes of an hour long, like first 10-15 minutes of this hour long panel. I was sitting next to a couple of people who were basically just ripping on everyone around them. I was just like, oh god, no. Eventually they left. I just started turning to everyone around me. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not a jerk. I'm sorry.
I'm not a jerk.
Which wasn't
Don't
helped by the
hate
fact, like,
me.
Which actually wasn't really helped by the fact that the guy who was right next to me, like most of the people I actually met in that convention were actually really cool. But like the one guy who was sitting next to me was like the embodiment of every negative stereotype this fandom has.
Oh, lovely.
Like he just like leaned, like in the moment I sat down, he just leaned over onto me and was like, "Hey, hey, you like ponies too? What's your favorite
Like-
pony?
Okay.
The ones that don't lean on me. Please don't touch
Yeah.
me." But at the end of the panel, they went over a whole bunch of fan material, and the two pieces of fan material that kind of sold me were a clip from Friendship is Witchcraft and a part of Ponies the Anthology 1.
Ah.
And so when I sent myself a text saying like, okay, when I'm done with all this, go and check these things out. And I did, and I subscribed to both of those people. And then I looked for a bit more, and I found Muffin Love Productions, and that was how I.
Sorry.
Yes, and so that's how I got into the fandom.
Fancy.
So yeah, I started. I watched it all in order, but it wasn't actually the first two episodes that sold me on the show.
Actually, that's quite interesting that you would mention.
Getting to the fandom.
What was it? No, people who aren't fans of the show and who slate it for no real reason.
Ah.
Because I had people at my school who are my friends who they're not like close-minded people or anything,
No,
but
no.
they just thought, "Oh, this is actually really weird. I'm not sure about this. It's a load of like grown-up people watching a show that's not designed for them. It's weird." And I actually kind of got them into a podcast type thing
Uh-oh.
to try and so that we would do research into it, and then they would see what it's like, so they wouldn't just have to take my word for it. And they did that, and then I found out afterwards that they'd watched like the episodes, like the whole first season or something like that, after only watching like 3 episodes.
He has converted them.
I've converted many. I was laughed at. It was hilarious. I told my friend Luke and my friend Jill, I'm like, so this was my senior year in high school when I got into the show, really, because I graduated. Actually, no. After my senior year in high school, this was when I first started college, actually, is when I first started getting into the show. First year in college. Anyways, I would visit my old high school often. I was talking to people there, and I'm like, so I discovered this show the other week, and you're going to laugh at me for this, but it's called My Little Pony. You're like, what? My Little Pony. Anyways, they made fun.
Speak up.
Yeah, exactly. Speak up, son. They made fun of me for a while, but I'm like, you know, give it a chance. Actually, I converted my friend Luke, my friend Jill, my sister actually laughed at me when I first talked to her about
Luke, give in to the ponies.
it. Indeed. But anyways,
It is your turn.
after every episode, she's like, "Where's the next one?" I'm like, "Right here." "Where's the next one?" "Right here." "Where's the next one?" "Right here." My sister wanted to keep watching it on and on. She's into the show, but not into the fan base. Because the fan base, it was a different thing. Because for me getting into the fan base, it was a bit weird. I first started mentioning to other people I started watching the show. I didn't really feel like doing much for it at all, really. Delta was one of the first people, Pim Marthroy, those of you who might know him as that. I started talking with him about watching the show. He's like, go watch the Real Man show, like Happy Tree Friends or something like that. I'm like, I've already seen that, and that's actually quite disturbing. Anyway,
Yes.
as I give it a chance, he's like, nah. Anyway, Delta doesn't give anything a chance without watching more than one episode. He doesn't watch one episode and say, I'm done. He watched the first 3, and then he kept going on from there. He didn't realize he had a problem until he was waiting for the new episode to come out. Anyway, essentially, though, when we both started getting into the show more, we were talking about coming with an idea of doing something involved that was related because we discovered Equestria Daily for the first time. Because when I finished watching all the episodes, I had never heard of Equestria Daily until then. I'm like, what is Equestria Daily? Because I'm like, there's fan content. I'm like, I'm a bit scared. It might ruin what I have of hopes of this show and stuff like that. But anyways, yeah, we came up with the idea. Let's make a channel related. We'll like draw it slowly into ponies from we'll do like podcast like things and then go from there and start transitioning into ponies. Like, okay. I'm like, so first off, the channel name, it has to be something related to the show. I'm like, the acronym must be MLP for My Little Pony. He's like, all right. So we started coming up with different kinds of names. I'm like, and it has to have muffins in it. And he came up with Muffin Loving Productions, but YouTube didn't fit it, so we put Muffin Loving Productions. Anyways, but
It's a perfect plan.
yeah, but our transition didn't work well because if you go to our channel, you can see there's first 7 episodes of our podcast. All of a sudden, we have Ponymon, and you're like, "Where was the transition?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, we got a bit tired of waiting." And essentially, yeah.
Yeah, no, that was the Ponymon was how I found you guys.
That's how a lot of people
the,
find us through Ponymon. Was they need update, but I think they may have gone dark because of the recent issues of late.
Sunbathe.
Yes.
Anyways,
So
so
yeah.
should we actually go on to talking about season 1 and 2?
We
Season
should
1,
probably. Yeah, we should probably actually get onto the actual pilot since we've gone over the origin stories of all of us.
Origins, end-to-end origins.
And spent a hell of a long time talking about it, I will say.
Yeah,
Yes, we have.
almost a half
I've
hour.
only got so much recording space.
Yes, well, actually, we spent about 10 minutes before we actually started.
Yeah, AR.
Yes,
Well.
but we did spend about 20 minutes doing origins.
Yes. Anywho, so what our discussion will be today is season 1, episode 1 and 2. I don't know, because when I first started watching these season openers, they drew my attention. They did that well, and because it was a 2-part, I think benefited it as well because everyone wanted to know how it was going to end.
Yeah.
That's I wouldn't have continued the series if it wasn't for the cliffhanger at the end of episode 1.
Yeah.
And it's a good cliffhanger. It sold the show pretty well, and for a show that has to establish an ensemble cast very quickly, as well as establish a major conflict, which will then allow them to flesh out said ensemble cast, and then establish a world, and then establish a status quo from which to build the rest of the show on. It had to accomplish a lot, and while it doesn't necessarily make it one of the my favorite episodes in terms of viewing, from the standpoint of world building and character building, while not making it just a giant exposition dump, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I will agree with that.
Indeed.
What do you guys think?
Well, if we're just going on the very first episode, it was interesting. Now, let's think. It's
No.
been such a long time since I actually saw the first 2 episodes because I neglected to watch them. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
While you think of something to say, can I go?
yes,
Yeah,
go
go
of
ahead.
course, yes.
Well, when I first watched the episodes of the first season, I will say that you can definitely tell that it had not yet discovered about the chances and possibilities of it having an older audience, because it is essentially aside from the season 3 the weakest episode, because I thought season 3's final episode was very weak, but that's a different story. However, it did leave you wanting more, because it did develop some characters that you liked seeing, and like a villain whose backstory intrigued you.
Yeah. And
And there's a lot of mythology in it, which draws another horde of people who are intrigued by that sort of thing. And come on, it's Lauren Faust. It's Powerpuff
Yeah.
Girls, Dexter's Laboratory, Foster's Home.
Was I think she wasn't Dexter's Lab. I think that was her
Husband.
her
It was
husband
her
who
husband.
was yeah.
I do believe she helped as like an executive producer.
yeah, she did help out in
Yeah,
those shows.
yeah, I think so. But like, yeah,
Craig McCracken
her
had
husband
more.
was also
Because I know that
yeah.
Craig McCracken and Lauren Faust work essentially off each other a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know, even if it wasn't necessarily her, it was, you know, her husband did work on LP with her, so it is the same creative people, you know, the same creative team, either way.
Yeah.
But
And the thing with the first 2 episodes as well, the first season, the story, it's not bad, but it's not amazing as well. But the thing is also the episodes just do it justice and drawing you in and getting you curious about the universe in which these small equines live in.
Yeah, I would say it works very well for what it is, which is the pilot 2 episodes, because
Yeah.
it clearly, if it was the one that everyone watched first, and, well, most of us watched first, I believe,
Yeah.
then it clearly did its job at drawing us in, because we're here now talking about it.
Yes.
Yes.
Clearly.
Its job is to be a doorway into this fantastic world.
Yes, I believe we have many discussions about this fantasy world that looms within our brains.
Well, it's
Yes,
a
it's
shame you
much
didn't
better than the
record
real
it,
one.
because I was on a roll that day.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it definitely established a world that has drawn us all in, and characters that obviously have kept us around. You know, we all started with the pilot, so, and even though it really does kind of seem like none of us are exactly in love with the pilot,
Yeah.
it clearly did its job well enough to keep all of us around long enough to, you know, go on from there to the rest of the
Yeah.
series.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I did like the antagonist. I know she, like, didn't really do much. I realised that. But,
I think I like her character design.
yeah, I liked, from an artistic point of view, I liked her and Luna's character design a lot.
Yeah.
And the whole art of the world, particularly the Everfree Castle, looked very, I particularly liked that. In fact, the whole art style was something that, like, grabbed me later on.
Which actually,
I just suddenly looked at it and I thought, actually, all of this looks really nice.
it's actually one of my other friends at college. He had heard of the show. He only judges it because of the way the art style is. He doesn't like it. That's why he doesn't watch it.
Oh, I see.
Fair enough. I mean, I suppose if you can't deal with the art style, then you're kind of, you know, up a certain creek without a paddle, because it's going to be
That
there
movie.
pretty much constantly.
I have
Yeah.
not seen it.
What?
Mm.
I was actually going to say that it's an expression,
You're an expression.
Yeah.
but yeah,
There's a smart car for sale.
Okay.
Sorry?
Anyway, point is that if you don't like the art design, you're kind of
Screwed.
in trouble.
Yeah,
in
you're not
terms of
going to
the
like the
story.
rest of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible if you found the storyline and character development good instead, then you might be able to get along with
Withstand
it. But if you don't like the art style, the whole visual aspect of it is normally what is a fairly large part of
Yeah,
the
that's
show.
why
So if you don't
anime-
like that, you're going to have a problem.
Yeah, and that's why anime has so much drawn attention to it because of its art style.
Yeah, and that's actually amusingly, since you brought that up, one of my things is I really dislike most anime,
dare you.
and part of the thing with that is, for an anime to really get my attention, to get me to really like it, it has to be good enough in its character and writing for me to get over the fact that I hate anime as an art style.
Oh.
Get ready for all the hate comments.
Oh, I'm sure. Go to hell, all of you.
You need to watch
Why don't you
Clan
like
Ad.
anime?
Clan Ad
I
After
used to be part of
Story.
an AV club at college, and I'm used to people throwing much heavier things than negative comments
Like
at me. So bring it on.
Yeah.
More like staplers and
Yeah.
Staples are
Microwaves
really
is a bit over the top, but
But no, yeah, I can understand someone basically going like, okay, this series, it's all right. I'm not necessarily completely in love with it, but I just can't. Like, the art style is just something I don't want to look at.
Yeah.
I'm just not enjoying
Because
it
myself.
makes me feel
Yeah.
physically sick
But
every
you
time
need
I
to-
watch
Well, since
Yeah.
we're talking about art styles, I think an anime that was a really great art style that I don't see anywhere else is the Cowboy Bebop series.
Okay. I did not like Cowboy Bebop.
I've never seen
the
it.
art style was all right. I actually liked the art style in that a lot more than I've seen in other animes, but I just didn't like the characters or the story.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I can remember a lot of Cowboy Bebop,
Never
but I
seen it.
remember loving the art style and the animation. And
Music was really good too. It was sort of a jazzy thing.
You have to see Clan Ad and Clan Ad After Story. That is an amazing anime series I've fallen in love with. It is my
Fair
favorite.
enough.
I feel I have my buddy Mark here. He's
Yeah.
an anime nerd.
But I almost cried to Clan Ad After Story. I'm like, you jerks! It was so heart wrenching. I hated it.
You blew it up.
Darn you! Darn you all to heck, to quote Madagascar. Anyway, you thought I was going to
Yes,
quote
of
the
course.
apes, but no, I quoted Madagascar to throw you all off. Anyway,
Moving on.
yeah.
Moving onwards.
But
and
anyways,
hopefully upwards.
I actually did not like the art style when it first came out. I didn't really like it too much. I've grown used to it, and I do enjoy it now.
Huh. Yeah, that was one of the things that kept me going, was the art. I really loved the art.
Yeah, I really like the art and the whole Flash animation.
I
of it.
blame the whole lack of good cartoons at that time. Early 2012 didn't have a lot of good cartoons coming out.
Well,
True.
to be fair, there hasn't been a good cartoon series out in
Since
quite
the
a while.
90s, because
I
the
think
90s
the-
was the
I
best
think
era.
Early
I
2000s
say
had
this
some really good cartoons.
I'm going to say this a lot in my my reviews, but basically, I think 2004 is when we started to see Cartoon Network and other cartoon
Yeah,
networks have some sort of like cancer.
yeah.
Yeah.
To be fair, it depends on kind of how you define cartoons, because cartoons as a children's medium really started to slag off for a while during the during the later 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah.
Well,
But
I think it was still prevalent in the late 90s because there was still some good shows,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
but
the,
not
the
as
first,
much.
like the first few seasons,
You
SpongeBob.
start to see it peak around 1997 is
yeah,
when you start seeing the peak, and as soon as like 2000 came, it was meh,
Well,
and
yeah.
around 2004 you start to see it drastically change.
yeah, that's
for the
true. I
worse.
do agree with that. But also, there were actually a few pretty good cartoons coming out in the early 2000s. You did have Fairly Odd Parents. I did enjoy that. SpongeBob around that time was still pretty good. Danny
Yep.
Phantom was a decent, pretty good cartoon as well. Shaolin Showdown was an amazing cartoon series. Code Lyoko was pretty cool.
That is to say that it wasn't good shows that came out around that time, but it was not as prevalent as
Yeah.
with the explosion of
yeah.
creativity
Yeah,
that happened
I agree
in the
with that.
90s.
Yin Yang Yo is another amazing
Yeah.
cartoon that came out in 2007. I love that.
To be fair, again, also it depends on how you look at cartoons. Because again, while there was sort of a dirge of sorry, I'm probably using that word horribly wrong. Well, there was a lot of really bad kids shows that came out. There was actually a general rise in the quality of adult humor cartoons. I know that most of you aren't exactly as big into those. Most of you, I kind of have the advantage of a couple of extra years on you guys to have been in college around the time these things really started taking off. But Futurama had a number of really good movies come out throughout that time period.
Yeah.
There was shows like Venture Brothers and even some like Venture Brothers was kind of going strong around that time period. A lot of Adult Swim cartoons went from really, really low quality Flash animation to actually starting to get a little bit more budget and a bit better writers. Some of them, not all of them, by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, I think the only things that are working on Adult Swim right now are things they stole from other networks, like the Family Guy and the American Dad. I think those are the only things that are working for them. Also, the English shows like Garth Marenghi's Dark Place and The Office.
Well, yes, but again, there was a number of really good shows that kind of came out around the time period where things were really going bad for in children's television.
But
really good.
Yeah, but I personally
Grim Fandango.
Yeah,
it's good.
Okay.
Sorry,
I was just saying, I'm not a real big fan of like adult cartoons like Futurama or Family Guy. I really don't like Family Guy at all. The humor just goes too far for me. I like more tamed, I guess you could say, where it isn't as over the top or profane as children's cartoons. I enjoy cartoons where everyone can enjoy them and not be, not necessarily offended, but just like, I don't know, they're not profane and that everyone can enjoy them. That's the kind of shows I like.
Well, I agree with you, AR. However, the problem with me is they have to be having a good story.
Yeah.
And if they're trying to be funny, they really need to do it well.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of shows around that time were purposely not funny. Like I'm about to make your podcast die right here. I hate Adventure Time.
I do as well.
It is so unfunny.
You guys can, both of you can go and.
This is on Muffin Love Productions. You do know this, right?
Why does this have to have such a like? I've never watched this show in my life.
Really?
I like Adventure Time a lot. I think it's actually very clever and very fun.
There are some jokes in there, but overall, I don't.
There's a
think
few moments that are in compelling to me, but a lot of the times I just stroke my head in pain.
Yeah.
Because it is so ridiculously unfunny.
One of the main characters speaks in nothing but Korean. That's amazing. They have a kid show where one of the characters only speaks in a language that most of the kids will not understand, but is a real language spoken fluently.
Okay, I will admit that is quite a feat.
That's interesting, but I don't find it funny.
Yeah, I don't find it funny. I do agree on the part that it's clever, but there's a difference between clever and funny. I don't think it's funny.
It's clever.
I don't think it's funny, personally.
And their situations are... I really don't care. I really don't care about the characters. The only person I think I actually care about is the vampire female, Marceline the Vampire Queen.
And also, is there a story to Adventure Time at all?
There actually is. There actually is a very
People keep telling me there is.
You have to kind of follow it for a bit, but basically it's the story of a world that has been annihilated with in a nuclear war that is slowly recovering, but in a kind of really weird way. You kind of have to pull it out through all these little things, but basically there's a whole bunch of weird, side jokes and odd Easter eggs that when you actually piece them all together, paint this really dark overall meta plot.
I was getting that actually when I watched a couple episodes. It had a dark understory, but I personally didn't really care for it because it didn't draw it out too much. I like stories where they draw out the story for you to watch because that's what I'm there to do. I want to be entertained through a story. Personally, that is just me. Everyone has their own kind of humors and ways they like listening to stories. I personally don't like Adventure Time because they don't portray the story like that. Because I know there's a dark undertone to that series, and I can tell from watching it that there is some sort of dark story going on with it as well. But I don't really personally care for it because they're not drawing it out and bringing it to light too much.
And that's completely fair. Everyone has a personal taste.
Exactly.
That's why it's called personal taste, not mandatory. You must like this.
Exactly. Your taste is just terrible.
I mean, most of the situations that
Wow.
happen is pure chaos, and I really don't care what about any of the characters,
and-
except for the one I said. And it's it's I see it as like the equivalent of I say this about Cartoon Network all the time. It's the equivalent of jingling keys in front of your face.
I think that's taking a really negative view on it, because the thing is, I'd say again, it's much smarter than that. The thing is, it draws upon basically the core of children's imaginations. It is the essence of what it is to be a child and to play pretend in the yard. And for an adult, part of the reason it has an adult fan base is it is the essence of your childhood. It is that spirit of unbound
Well, I see that they're
creativity.
trying really hard to get '90s kids to watch it because I see all the
I saw there was a
hidden
Samurai
messages.
Jack reference in there as well, wasn't there?
There's so many hidden messages in Adventure Time that's like, "Hey, '90s kids, come
Yeah,
watch this."
But
But
it's like we said, it's
if
clever.
you're looking at it as a kid, I would never show my kid Adventure Time because I think it's focusing on the nostalgia that '90s kids like, and I don't see it showing any of that stuff that you were saying for a younger audience that would not be exposed to what the '90s were.
Well, I have a number of very young relatives that I spend a fair bit of time with,
Two.
and they like the show a lot. So
Well, they like
they're
the
getting something out
show,
of it.
but it's.
And do not go and say that they're stupid and that they don't.
I'm not going to diss your
They are smart
anyone
kids.
who watches the show. If you like it, that's great. I would never watch it for fun, though.
Okay, fair enough. Again, it's all personal preference.
Yeah, yours is just terrible
Yeah.
compared to ours. But anyway, moving on. So
I think you've been trying to say something for an hour now.
Yeah,
No,
I've been
no,
trying
no,
to say
no.
something for
It-
a while, and
I know.
Here-
Yeah.
Let Lightning Rabbit go ahead and talk.
all I was going to say was I haven't seen the storyline. I won't judge it on the storyline. I haven't seen it, but the only thing I will say is that the art direction. I don't know.
It's weird.
I don't mind it, but it doesn't seem as easy on my eyes as something like MLP is.
And
That's fair.
And the characters are noodle-like, all of them. They have this noodle-like sensation. It's just weird to see as well.
I don't mind that. I've seen Tim Burton's movies. They always have spindly legs and things, but
Yeah, but it's
I just feel like the proportions are, in comparison, I'm going to compare it to MLP, but the proportions seem relatively normal, and I don't know, this show just doesn't seem, the art style is not,
It's very
It's not
strange.
very aesthetically pleasing.
Well,
as
it's
it's
MLP.
probably an
different.
acquired taste. Yeah.
It's a different aesthetic.
it's like wine.
Yes.
I was just about to make that reference. Very
It's,
good.
it's the difference between enjoying a painting by Da Vinci or Picasso. It's not that one of them is necessarily wrong. It's just that they're very different.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying that personally, I think this one is a bit. I don't know what it is about it. I think I need to look more into it and find pictures from the actual show because I can't tell what's fan made and what isn't. But yeah, I just
Yeah,
find that I don't know. I just
You're better off not, but whatever you want.
I don't know. I just don't really like kind of. The art style is just strange to me, basically.
It is very strange. The whole thing is very, very strange. That's something that no one
Yeah.
can deny, like it or don't like it.
But
Oh.
yes, we were talking about
Just doesn't
Adventure
feel
Time
as
for a while.
fuzzy
So
as
how,
MLP.
how did we get to Adventure Time from ponies again?
9.
We were talking about,
Cartoons.
The-
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Anyway, yeah. I
how
was
there
listening, I
weren't
was-
any good cartoons before MLP brought
Yeah.
back.
But I was thinking because like around 2009 to 2012, before I got into the show, there wasn't really anything for me to watch on TV. I was often on the computer. I was in a different fan base. I was actually in the Thompson Friends fan base for a while with a bunch of people, which I am
I've never
surprised.
dealt with that.
Yeah, it's not a huge fan base at all, but in a sense, it's just a bunch of guys who like trains, and then actually there are some people who are really into trains. I do love trains as well, but it was very interesting being in the community because I was actually getting decently popular in it because I made movies. I made a show as well. I was actually participating in someone else who was pretty popular in the community to make some shows and stuff. I gotten to know quite a few decently popular people as well. But that was before MLP because, like I said, there wasn't anything else going on for me to watch at home, so I just sit on the computer and talk to people for hours on that online, which I still do to this day. Thank you, ponies. You have not changed my life one bit.
Well,
Wonderful.
for ponies, I really didn't.
Yes. Which actually, interestingly enough, there was a World War II movie coming out with Thomas and Friends in 2014.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hold on, Joel, you were going to say
Yes,
about
Joel, you were
your
saying
previous.
something.
Well, before ponies, I did try and become popular on the internet. I was going to make a show to go on thatguyoftheglasses.com. I was going to be an internet reviewer of animation. And as soon as ponies came in, I saw this fan base rising, and I took the hint that these people are making some amazing stuff, and I want to make some amazing stuff. So I put that on hold for the longest time. And I'm going to be making it. I'm going to get back on the rails of doing that too. But the ponies have definitely given me what I needed with making friends with people who do all these many things. And if I get popular, that's great. If I don't, that's a shame. But the friends that I've made,
Hello.
I consider to be the best people I've ever met.
Aww.
That's nice.
But,
It's going to be one of those podcasts.
the people who are in the vicinity of where I am are, well, sorting idiots, but...
Well, you are in Chicago.
What is it with the city hate?
Yeah, geez, Louise Cabral. I mean, you're just
California isn't that great.
I know it's
Yeah,
I
your
know it's
air
not that
is
great.
smog.
There's a
You'll be
ton,
laying into England
there's a
next.
ton of smog, but I don't live down south. I live up north. Crystal clear skies for miles. Anyways, but yeah, I have
Well,
made.
actually, yeah,
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, Lightning, since we're on the subject, I guess for now on the subject of previous fandoms and projects, what were you part of another fandom, or did you used to do stuff on the internet before MLP?
No.
Funnily enough, Cabral just got it right. I didn't do anything at all. It was strange. I spent most of my time
Outside.
doing nothing, basically.
Yeah.
I got on with school and talked to friends, and that was basically all I did. I didn't really use the internet much.
I love that answer. I did nothing. Oh.
I didn't. I maybe got involved with watching some different YouTubers or things like that, but I never really had a fan base that I was part of until this. And then I got involved with it, and halfway through the second season, or maybe
wanted to
at
do
the
something
beginning of the
with it.
second season, I thought, yeah, well, I'll actually get involved with the fan base, because before that I just watched the show and I did nothing else. And I was like, all of these people seem to be having a good time together, so I'll see if I can join in. And I picked up Inkscape and started trying to vector, and my first attempt was horrendous. I can
Did you make a line?
probably show it to you. Yeah.
Do you still have the first picture? Can we see it?
Yes, you can see it later.
Oh, darn
but
it!
yes.
You should have showed the peoples.
Well, I can show the peoples, but
it'll
you'll
be-
see it later.
Yeah, it'll
We'll
be
put
up
it
when
up
we
as
actually
the
record
picture.
it.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, yeah, no, actually, it's sort of funny because actually it's about what I was doing
Nothing.
before. Well, yeah, pretty much. I mean, the thing is, I've watched some shows on the internet. Like I followed the Spoonie one and SF Debris, and I read a lot of articles on the Escapist. But like the closest thing to a fandom I was involved with was Red vs. Blue, and that was mostly just occasionally being on the forums. But like before getting into this, I didn't like forums. I hated fan fiction. I thought fan videos were occasionally kind of cute, but really nothing overly interesting unless, like, I was looking for a particular song and I was like, oh, someone posted this song online, but with some pictures from a show I like. I guess I'll watch that version instead of the, blank screen
Yeah,
version.
same here.
but like that was about as far as I went in terms of fandoms and stuff. And then basically I started watching this, started getting into a lot of the fan content, and I was sort of like, I was still sort of on most things, but I was I got into reading fan fiction through reading Fallout Equestria.
Oh my gosh!
On a
you read that?
36
You read the whole thing of that?
I was on a 36-hour train ride to Cincinnati to visit friends of mine from college, and like that was with layovers. And so I read all of Fallout Equestria and Past Sins
wow.
on that train ride. I first read Past Sins. I was like, that was all right. Kind of felt it had potential, and then it was like, okay, I still got 20 hours to go. I still got 20 hours to go. Guess I'll read all 110,000 words
That's a lot, actually.
Of Fallout Equestria, and I finished that. I was like, you know what? Fan fiction's awesome. I'm going to read more of this.
Yeah.
And then I found what ended up happening. How I got actually into doing things was me and a couple of friends of mine from college who were not into the fandom but were into XCOM. Read a fan fiction that was a kind of comedy crossover of MLP and XCOM, and I finished doing that. I was like, okay, that was fun, but I'd like to do another reading, and preferably with more people who are, a little bit more experienced. Like these guys were pretty good, but there was like 3 of us. There were 4 of us in total, and I didn't think I could get at least 2 of them to do any more pony-related things. And I was like, okay, I need to find voice actors. I'm horribly antisocial, and I'm not good on forums. So I am just doomed.
That happens.
Doomed!
Okay, that happens with all kinds of people I meet. I meet all of the antisocial people on the internet. Delta was antisocial. Non-Avalis was antisocial. I think Lightning was pretty antisocial as well.
She's just shy.
Yeah.
Which one? Me?
Yeah, you.
I'm not anti-social.
Okay, you were shy.
Come on.
Ish.
But-
Well, that was because I hadn't used the internet
I hadn't
much
used the
prior
internet
to that
before
point.
my
Or
life.
if I'd used it, but I'd never talked to people on it. The first person I ever talked to over Skype was Schlumpy from Philly Games,
I was talking to him
and he was
actually
like
a bit ago.
14. Yeah, he's cool.
Well, the thing is, the upshot of that was I was, desperately trying to figure out a way to find voice actors and voice actresses for doing a reading. And I looked on my YouTube subscribe list, and I saw Muffin Lovin' Productions presents Green Is in Your Color.
I'm
And
so
I was
sorry.
like,
Oh my
okay.
god.
I'm going to put this on, listen to this while I do things, and listen to it like, if
Idea.
I left a comment in this section, I might be able to get at least 1 or 2 of these people to agree to, maybe do some recording for me.
Well, good news, you got 3 of them.
Yeah, well, I left the thing, and I got a message from, Cabral. And it's just sort of like, hey, yeah, actually, I could do something for you. Like, I could hook you up with some voice actors. I was like, what?
I've won.
Was he?
And yeah, so like from there, I just suddenly was on Cabral's list, and I got invited to the next reading, and from there I met a whole bunch of people.
Hello.
Russian Rainbow Dash.
Yes. So yeah, no, that was actually sort of funny. I pretty much was not involved in the content side of things up until I became involved in the content side of things with you people.
And he's been regretting it ever since.
And I've been.
This all went downhill from
Since
there.
we're talking about fandoms, I just realized I did watch one other internet huge fandom before Ponies, and that would have been
The Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged and the DBZ Abridged fandom.
Yeah.
Isn't that right, Bacala? Shut up, Medic. Now.
Anyway.
I think the next thing we were going to talk about was the story, but before we get into that, we actually have a segment that we're going to throw up here. So why don't we take a little
You said
break?
throw
and
up.
you're
The maturity level has actually gone down since this podcast started.
I think everyone's
Vegeta, what
IQ
does
just
the
went
scout
down
say
from
about
that.
Your maturity level is under 9,000.
Huzzah! Anyway,
Negative
Minus
9,000.
we'll be taking a break
Okay.
here. For now, you can enjoy
Yeah.
someone else and their rantings about things.
Yes. Well, we'll catch you all in just a little bit. Welcome to End to End presents an interview. I'm Duhad, and joining me today is Nanavelis.
That
Hey,
was
Nani?
not right, but close enough.
Sorry. Well, how would you pronounce that, actually?
Non-avlis.
Nonavlis. Oh, I'm sorry. I have been mispronouncing your name this entire time.
That's
I
okay.
feel kinda silly.
Everyone from Canada thinks I'm French, and they say non-avli.
Oh, wow.
It's
Well,
like,
that's
I'm not French at all, but thank you.
it's a fair bit fancier than I'm used to, so I'm just going to keep on calling you Nani for right now.
That's perfectly fine with me.
All right. Well, Nani, you are a bit of a old school fan of this whole franchise, are you not?
I am. I've been with My Little Pony since the first generation.
So how did you get into the first generation of Pony?
Well, I was at a flea market with my parents, and I found these two little plastic ponies, one of which was Hula Hula, who is called Sail Away in the UK, and another which was Twinkler, who I believe is called Sparkler in the UK. And I just really, really liked them, and so I got them and brought them home, and I've been buying ponies ever since then.
Hey, not bad. So you got into the show actually through the toys, which, considering how Pony kind of got its origin, is pretty fitting, honestly. You're a collector of those toys, are you not?
I am. I probably have about 400 ponies now, of various
Really?
generations.
Wow. And those are that spans all generations of the show, not just the
Well,
original run or the most recent run.
it's everything but 3.5,
Really?
which didn't
Everything
really
but
go over
3.5.
well with collectors.
Ah, yeah. No, I've heard very few positive things about 3.5. And it seems like the toys are not really much of an exception.
Yeah, I think I only have one 3.5 toy, period.
Ooh, ouch. Oh, poor 3.5. You get no love. But
Not really.
so if you had to have a choice between the generations, since 4 came out, there's been unbelievably popular with all sorts of people. But there are also a lot of people who are really old school fans of the earlier generations. Where would you place yourself on the sliding scale of the old show is the best versus the new show put the series in a interesting new direction?
I honestly don't see the new show as very, breaking any boundaries or going outside where the old show reached. I find them to be very similar in their basic themes and characters, so I'd probably go with the old show because that was my childhood.
That's fair. Nostalgia is a powerful tool. I have a real soft spot for a lot of things that are probably not very good in retrospect, but unlike G1, which I'm sure is actually really good, I just, I'm saying, I'm a big, I will fight to the death to defend The Lost World as an amazing movie that has no faults, despite the fact that everyone tells me it's terrible, and I should not love it as much as I do.
I don't even think I know that video.
It is it's the sequel to Jurassic Park.
Oh, then I
yeah,
probably
it's-
did see that, but I don't remember what I thought of it.
Yeah, I loved it when I was a kid, but most people have since told me that I'm very stupid for loving it because it's apparently terrible. I
Well,
rewatched it recently, but I'm sort of like, it's so much of my childhood. I love it. I still love it.
I watched the Jurassic Park. I guess was it a trio in the end or whatever, and I don't remember any of them being terribly bad.
Yeah, it was a trilogy in the end. I don't particularly love the third one, but I don't really see any of them as being all that bad. But anyway, off topic.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. I'm the one who brought us careening off into a random direction. So
But it had dinosaurs.
it did, and they're amazing.
They so
actually,
are.
Yeah, that actually brings up an interesting point. In the first generation of the show, or at least the first animated series in the first generation, there was a lot of really interesting emphasis on fantastical creatures and a fantastical world. And we have definitely got that back a lot in the fourth season. But which series do you think actually did a better job with really creating this crazy, fantastic world of adventure and colorful equines?
I think G4 does get credit for trying to make a much more colorful world without gaps in its continuity. That's not quite the right word, but
It's close enough.
the first generation things mostly usually happen by magic. So, it's like, we have a plot hole, but we can fix it. Let's go see the Moo Chick, and he'll give us some magical thing, and it will fix everything, because that's easy. To be perfectly honest, the first generation of My Little Pony often used plots to show off the new toys, and thus there was not a lot of continuity there.
Well, yeah, you can't exactly blame them. If you need to, sell a show, if you're trying to sell a toy line using a show, generally having something that looks good and that works well for the sake of showing off what you've managed to create is probably a lot more important than trying to create a, thematically consistent world for little kids who aren't really going to notice that stuff anyway.
This is true. And thus, Princess Twilight.
And thus, Princess Twilight. And the inclusion of railroads.
And the balloon.
And balloons. And all sorts of other weird technological strangenesses.
Oh, yes. Good job, Hasbro.
I don't actually blame Hasbro for that sort of thing. It's, how they do their thing. And honestly, if it gets us good shows, I'm more than willing to put up with a little bit of weirdness.
I don't mind it either, and it gives me more toys to collect, so I can't really complain.
Exactly. Actually, you just before we started recording, you actually mentioned a rather interesting thing which I didn't know about, and I'm sure a lot of people would actually be kind of interested to hear. As someone who's come into the show more from the fourth generation perspective, I generally see that, looking back at retrospectives and stuff, it seems like the series is broken up into, 4 generations with 3 kind of getting split into 3 and 3.5. And each generation having essentially a cartoon series that goes with it, more or less. But according to you, the what I was told was the second generation cartoon series, the one where they're in a town and they're dealing with boys, and it's got more of a high school vibe going on, is actually not Generation 2, the cartoon, but in fact Generation the Cartoon Series 2.
It is the second show based on the first generation of My Little Pony toys.
So the generations are broken up by the toy lines, and the second show is actually still part of the first generation toy line?
It is.
Huh.
Though probably part of the confusion comes from the fact that when the television series with the schoolgirl ponies was repackaged to DVD, it was done with G2 box art. So it appears on the box to be part of Generation 2, even though when you play it, it's G1 ponies.
Huh. That's actually kind of clever.
Again, brilliant marketing, Hasbro.
Yeah, no, it's, hey, I mean, if you're going to sell this stuff, you might as well go like, look, it's part of the new line.
Exactly.
Sure, they're old toys, but hey, kids, it's got the...
To be honest,
it's got all the stuff you
I
want.
think there's multiple cartoon series within G3 and 3.5 as well, because G3 sort of spun off into G3.5, which then spun off into G3.5 Cuties and Ponyville, so I'm not caught up on that because their cartoons were for a much younger audience, but...
and somewhat less passionate, let's call them.
Yeah, they pretty much became 5-minute commercials.
Yeah, kind of. I saw little bits of some of those, and I can respect like all the stuff that came from G1. I can respect some of the stuff that some of the stuff that was in G3. A lot of the G3.5 stuff just looks like stuff that they asked bored college students to make for them on a budget.
Yes, it's a little strange.
I don't want to badmouth any of the previous generations, but...
Oh, no, of course. If someone has liked them, then I'm very glad for that. But personally, it's not to my tastes.
Yes, there you go. That's probably a good way of doing it. And actually, that brings us just about to the end of our time for this week. Non-Avlis, it has been a pleasure to have you on the show, and we hope to have you on in future.
Thanks, hon. Yay!
Well, that was interesting. Welcome back, by the way. So,
that was a great way to start the thing.
Well, thank you, Carol.
You're welcome.
Anyway, so
Yes.
I believe we were going to discuss a certain story that all of us have recently read.
Because this isn't entirely about the show. It's also about the fans. Because, we are fans after all, right?
Fucking hate ponies.
Yes, we all hate ponies. So now we're going to discuss some fan content.
Yes, in particular, a piece of fan fiction, if you will.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's going to be fun.
So, what did we all read?
A fleeting light in the
Oof.
darkness.
Me.
I said it first.
Yeah, spelt with weird caps and lines in it because punctuation.
Actually, that was intentional. If you did not know that, A Fleeting Light in the Darkness, the reason they titled it the way they did with the letters all weird like that, because if you rearrange them, they spell out all else failed.
Yeah, that's clever. I will
Keanu
say
Reeves,
though.
what do you have to say?
Wait,
Whoa.
spoilers.
Oh yeah, spoilers. We should probably say that. Yeah, Bit
Spoil.
late now, but
Oh
okay.
yeah, sorry.
Oh my god, this is the greatest story I've ever seen in my life.
Anyway,
Okay.
Spoilers.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I
you
will
know,
say-
obviously not all of you have read this. Some of you probably have read this story. It's written by Flash Gen. You can find it on FinFiction.
Yeah, of course I didn't.
We'll provide a
Right.
link in the description, and we'll probably have the title card for the story up on the screen right now, so you're probably looking at it as we talk.
No, I'm
but-
not.
Yeah. So there's no point in mentioning it. Although if you were just listening to it and you were watching the YouTube video in the background, then you might want to switch over and look at it now.
That would- yeah. Now, what the basic outline of the story is that it's a fairly traditional horror ghost story, in which a mysterious darkness falls over the town, and people start going missing in it,
Yeah.
eventually leading to the pretty much everyone disappearing and crazy
Yeah.
craziness.
The story starts off with basically some a group of what is it? Not soldiers or investigators. Not investigators. I guess like a little rally, a little group that Celestia sends to check on the town. 3 days after
It
the previous
was
group was sent.
Royal Guards, yeah,
Yeah, some
and an
guards.
investigator.
Which, by the way, sorry, this is a slight tangent, but it is sort of weird that they are apparently the royal guard, implying that their job is to protect royalty, and yet they are the basic police force for
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, okay, we'll just send them in. Even though we've got police officers in this story, we're still going to send them in.
Yeah, but
Is it a special task force? What do you want?
anyway.
essentially, so they're
was
sent
gonna
to
say-
Ponyville, and they find the town completely deserted, not even signed to the other team that was there a few days ago. They find various things missing, actually. A lot of stuff. Like, if it wasn't nailed to the ground, it was gone in most of the buildings. Except the mayor's office, which was strangely, everything was there. So that was very strange to me. It
God,
never
he did.
mentions why, though. Anyway, so they find everything, windows broken, doors broken in, stuff like that. And they go into Twilight Sparkle's library. She's not there. All they find is a journal on top of a little desk, box thing or something like that, with a quill next to it. And it is covering the dates of what has been going on in Ponyville. Someone can
And
carry on.
it covers the day-to-day activities of Twilight first, as she's just going about her daily life, and then chronicling the slow descent into darkness and madness that befalls the town.
Yeah. Which I will also say, the guards arrived there on April 16th. That is an important note.
Okay.
Right, okay. We will remember that.
Lightning, would you like to move us ahead in the story?
Well, we've gotten to the part... Well, what have we said so far? The Royal Guards arrive...
They find
and
Twilight's
then-
journal.
We got the journal.
Yeah.
Things are starting to go crazy.
Yeah. It's moves on from that. Well, everything goes dark. The team that comes along to investigate first off, some of them get taken, and a Royal Guard says that he saw something. And then after that, they started putting lights up in the town because they assumed that whatever it was didn't like light.
Yeah.
And Twilight was having nightmares and things. And then the whole town goes black, and everyone is gone.
Even
and
the
that
sky
leads
is
on to my
just
excerpt.
gone. There's no stars, no nothing, no sun, no
Yeah.
moon. Everything is just black.
Yeah, it's very strange, and that leads on to my excerpt, which I was going to read. Kind of. If I can find it.
Was it the...
But, yes, it's, no, it's an interesting turn of events, basically, because then they're all. I'm not entirely sure actually. How did Rarity and Fluttershy and Pinkie Pie get in Twilight's library if everyone went back to their houses and was confined there when the blackness came?
I think what was Flutters was basically freaking the hell out.
Yeah, so Rarity brought her
Rarity
over.
came to brought her over to the boutique to comfort her.
We already had cupcakes, and Pinkie had cupcakes.
And that meant that basically all the characters who actually lived in town were able to basically congregate relatively easily, whereas Dash and AJ, being the two characters who do not live directly in town, were kind of left out in the darkness.
Yeah, it was just strange because they didn't explain to me, or at least I didn't see how they actually got to the house, because I thought the idea was that there was a curfew so no one could leave the houses.
Well, there was for a while,
and
but that was...
Yeah, but then the darkness kind of came while I'm guessing, or when did it come? Did it just arrive, or were they all asleep? No, they woke up in the morning.
Yeah, they woke up and the sun just didn't come out.
Yeah, so if they were already awake, then and there was a curfew as well, and it was pitch black outside, I wouldn't have wanted to go out to go to the library.
Oh, it's easy because everything changed once the Fire Nation.
yeah.
Of course.
I don't know.
Once the Fire Nation attacked, yeah.
But that actually is an interesting point because I was going to say, well, okay, I just sort of assumed that they just went over, but yeah, that actually is a fair point. They wouldn't have left to all gather in the same place until the darkness fell, which means that since they were all in the library, it means that even if they were deciding they were all going to gather together, which I can understand, like thinking Rarity decided to do that because that makes sense, but it means that in order to get them there, Rarity, who was at the time taking care of Fluttershy, pretty much had to just go like, you know what? What's the best thing to do for a friend of mine who is in the process of having a complete mental breakdown? Drag them through the pitch black, through the streets, breaking curfew to get to our friend's house.
Was it through the pitch black that they actually went over there?
Yeah, it had to have been because the darkness didn't come on gradually. It came on all at once.
I think you're right.
Yeah, because there'd be no other way. Incidentally, Jihad, I'm going to post the excerpt to the chat that I want you to read in a kind of
Okay,
reporting
hold on.
voice.
April 12th in Twilight Journal. I got a letter from the princess just after sundown. She apologized for not replying sooner. She said that was tied up with our business. The next day, April 12th. 13th, sorry. The investigators, it goes on through that. At the end of April 13th, Pinkie, Rarity, and Fluttershy are staying here at the library with Spike, and it's a few minutes until sundown. It should be a lot less likely that something bad will happen with all this security.
Okay.
Oh, so close. Yes, okay. Thank you for rectifying that.
That's why I'm looking at the story right now.
Oh, that would have been embarrassing.
Yes, this excerpt.
Okay. You want me to read that for you?
Yeah. Also, could I have silence while you do, so I can make it can be easier to edit later?
Yeah.
Okay.
Almost there.
I'm almost there, but the house before this was unsettling. The doors were broken down, and when I got there, sorry, no, I messed that up. I'm sorry.
You can find start again.
Yeah. I'm almost there, but the house before this was unsettling. The door was broken down when I got there, and the lights were flickering. I felt odd. Fractionally between
fluctuating.
Fluctuating. Sorry, I felt odd, fluctuating between cold and warm so quickly. I felt watched, and I got out as quickly as I could. I tried to skip it. I'll try and skip it on the way back.
Right, that's fine. Thank you. The reason I wanted to bring that quote up was because that whole section I know this is complete tangent, but April 24th, and this is what I was saying before, is that it sounds like someone investigating the town, and it would sound good if they were doing it like over a walkie-talkie two-way radio type thing.
Ooh, that would be
With
good.
the little thing that I showed
yeah.
So like, almost there. The house before it was on something beep. They like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and after every full stop, there'll be that little radio noise. Wait, the one that I'm about to play, that one.
Yeah. But also, I want to point out that is April 24th. That is over a week after the investigators are there. This journal goes into the future because they arrived there April 16th, but there are entries for April 16th, April 17th, all the way up until, I believe, April 29th.
Wait, so the investigators are coming in halfway through the story?
They are. The investigators arrived in the town April 16th, and they found the journal, which goes up until April 29th.
Bum, bum,
which
bum.
makes it even creepier. Actually, there's some highlights.
Yeah, and was definitely not a chronological mistake.
Yeah, it wasn't.
We should
because,
point out.
right here actually says that the validity of any further entries is still under question. While the writing is the same style as previous entries, and there is no belief that they were written by anyone but Miss Sparkle, the contents are viewed as unlikely to have occurred and counteract several facts and dates and about the dates listed. Please consider this with any further reading.
I was going to say, like, just to throw it out there on the subject of things that aren't in chronological order.
Yeah.
There was a fan fiction we read once that was a self-insert story, I believe, and it was
No, not that one,
absolutely
please, no.
hilarious. I will
Okay.
link it for the benefit of the court because it was so funny. I mean, we did a read through. I did a read through multiple times of that
it's
thing.
so
Oh
horrible.
my God.
Okay.
Uh,
Anyways, let's go back to A Fleeting Light in the Darkness, because also I want to point out April 16th is when the guards get to town. April 16th is when the whole town goes black. That's when everything goes black for all the ponies. April 16th. And it says right here, April 16th. I can't believe what... there are several faint watermarks on this page and several that follow. Anyways, April 16th. I can't believe that what I'm writing, or that this is even real still. Spike woke me up this morning while it was still dark. I wasn't really thinking that why the lights had been shining through the window last night weren't still on, but I asked him what was going on. He was a little shaken, trying to speak while he held up a clock. It was 10 in the morning, or at least 10 o'clock. It just couldn't be possible. I had to double check, triple check even, with other clocks in the library, and they were all the same. I looked outside and the sky was dark. No sun, no clouds, not even any stars or the moon. It was just black. Anyway, the point of that is being when the guards got there on April 16th and everything goes dark for the ponies. It's very interesting. It's as if they got locked in their own little dimension. But we should finish the story for you guys who haven't read it, or at least go read it and then come back to the call or the.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
How does she know it? You know, how many days have passed if all the clocks are stopped and all?
No, they're not stopped.
Oh, they're not stopped. All right, never mind.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's fun. Yeah,
She
I
had
was
to triple
starting
check
to
with the
wonder
clocks in the library, and they were all the same. She was checking
Right.
the time.
Right. Okay. Never mind. I'm stupid. Never mind.
Yeah, I have a question
Yes.
then. I know, like, a lot of stories that involve this sort of thing are, like, the reason the princess doesn't get involved is because the whole point is that, you know, this is some, like, supernatural and beyond the princess's control. But I do feel like, you know, all of these things never seem to... I know it's to advance this, like, way the story works, but, you know, in real life, if something really concerning happened like that, and you got a letter sent to you anyway, I would have, like, come straight down there and tried to see what the hell was going on, especially if I was the one that everyone was looking up to protect them.
I think
Please
Twilight
no.
explains that.
Well, she explains
Yeah.
that the letters aren't getting sent, but does it actually get onto the point of why she sent an investigation team, a second investigation team
Yeah,
after losing
she
the first
sent...
one,
Yeah,
rather
and
than
she
carrying out
sent
herself?
one the first time, and I'm sure that they must have reported back to her that some of them went missing.
Yeah,
Before.
anyways, she says here, I got a letter from the princess just after sundown. She apologized for not replying sooner and that she was tied up with royal business, but she promised to send someone down in the morning.
Well, yes,
Yeah.
no, that's understandable why she didn't send herself down immediately. But once you lose the first team in the town where, you know, your personal student is,
Yeah,
and everyone disappears, that's about the point you don't send in the B team to try and figure things out. That's when you go down yourself.
Yeah, they lost the second team. The first team on the 14th is when they lost a few of them. So I would assume word would get back like the 15th or something like that. And she's like, all right, send someone down. It would take them a day or something. April 16th is when this team arrives.
Yes, I know, but why did she send B
Yeah.
team in instead of going in herself? I mean,
She's probably
When
still tied
the
up with
one-
something.
there
I
is
know,
no
but-
political business so urgent
Yeah.
that it should take
Saudi
priority
Arabia
over...
is waging war with her.
well,
Even so, taking a day, because she can teleport, it doesn't even take a day. She just pops in, goes, okay, what's up down here?
yeah, you know, that's what I was thinking of, because it's like, okay, you sent in the first team, but before all communications were cut was when, because they started installing lights and things. It was before like all of the communications were cut. So they must have said to the princess, right, we lost a few guys from the team, because that's a fairly big, important development in the case.
Yes.
Oh,
And-
by the way, we just lost the entire team.
Yeah, and then when the rest of the team got lost and all communication from the place was cut, she didn't think, oh, maybe I should go down there with like a legion of royal guards
That
and
could have
sort
been,
this.
like I said, though, that could have
She
been
said,
the
right, I'm
yeah.
going to send another team.
She didn't get directly involved when a
best
one needs to
political
go
leader ever.
Luna.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, I know it's just a
Yeah.
story, but I just feel
I
like
see what you're saying, but yeah, but anyways, let's finish up the story real quick. So, anyways, that happens where everything goes dark and it gets creepier because ponies start disappearing again. Some start hearing voices, and they keep lighting the lights because those things are still out there going after ponies, and they assume they're taking them away. Try to do some research, but to no avail because something tore out the pages, and half her research was gone. I love the way they did that in the story where. It was April 19th, where you have the whole line finished. The second line, you missed the last word. The third line, you missed the last two words, and it just keeps going on. It's going at a slant.
oh, it's well written, definitely. I love the format of
Yeah.
it.
But it's well done. And so, anyways, what happens though eventually is that as we go towards the end, ponies start disappearing. Twilight decides where we get the line, I'm almost there. That line that we mentioned earlier was when Twilight was going to visit Applejack because she saw there were many lights still in the at the Apple family farm. So she said, I want to go check that out, see if there's any pony there. She eventually does get there, which is April 25th is when she gets there, I believe. Let's see. Yeah, April 25th. They took some... Oh, wait, no. Yes, it is April 25th. They took some of the lights from the street back into Ponyville and had them set up around the orchard. I thought I didn't see anyone immediately because they were all inside, but I looked everywhere. There's no notes left behind that they left to go somewhere, but I did find a book out on one of the counters with a quill next to it. It looks like a journal on crop rotations and planting in the orchard. Maybe someone was using it. Just started reading the journal. It looks like Applejack and the others were coming to the same conclusions, and Rainbow Dash was here too. I looked around again, and I think there were graves here, where the soil is freshly moved. They're marked with shovels. There aren't any names. I buried it, and not just to get out of my mind. No one should have to see what was in that book. I'll head back to the library after some rest. It makes a very interesting thing there, because the ponies are disappearing. They're not dying. So it makes you wonder, are they committing suicide?
Or are they actually dying?
Well,
So
if
someone
they,
someone buried them.
I would say though also that even if, like, on a slightly technical note, even if they weren't being murdered, you said disappearing and then committing suicide, they're still dead at that point.
Yeah,
though.
but the disappearance the thing is, this whole time, no pony's dying. They're just disappearing is the thing. Just disappearing without a trace.
Yeah,
Okay, well, when you get to the grave, you kind of get the assumption that
they're dead.
they're dead.
Yeah, suicide is the assumption, is more than likely. Because
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing, like, even if...
Well,
well,
yeah, I don't think
the
it's suicide
two-
because someone's burying them. Someone has to be alive to bury
exactly.
them.
Well,
Well, that's
not
what I was saying,
everyone
like,
at once committing suicide.
Well, no, but the thing is, though, like, if you think about it, if we think about all the scenarios here, like, they can either be killed or they can commit suicide. Now, whichever one they do, if they're being killed, then someone is alive to bury them. If they're all committing suicide, then they can bury each other up until a point.
Yes, exactly. That was the thing.
But
But
then you
the
get
thing
left-
is
then you
also,
get
like
left
I
with a
said,
corpse.
it's
Yeah.
yeah. But like I said, they're disappearing as well. No matter what circumstances, at some point, most of them will disappear. So they're probably committing suicide from fear, as well as hopelessness, is what they would be doing that from. And so those who are left is still striving on hope would bury them respectively, and then
I don't know because the thing is,
Really, like-
if there's going to be a mass suicide, if they're going
I
to go
didn't
to
know-
like the
there's
trouble,
nothing that hint at a mass suicide. It just says
no, but like if all those people are dead and they all have like all the graves have fresh shovel marks, that implies that either someone killed them all, or all of them except for one committed mass suicide, and then just one person was left behind to bury all
that's
the
not
bodies.
why mass.
Yeah.
Why does it have to be mass suicide? It could just be some people committed suicide once or twice. It didn't say all the graves were
Well,
fresh.
I mean, at Sugar Lakers because of the graves.
yeah, but then
Like,
it did
just
not say
in this
all
one
of them were
situation.
fresh.
I know,
It
but
said
it
there
was
were fresh shovel marks on the graves, graves
Yeah.
plural. So it implies that
Yeah.
they're all fresh graves.
Let's see.
yeah, that's true. And the other thing is that I don't know why there'd be graves there. Otherwise, there might be. Like, even if there were, the fact is that they've if more than one person has committed suicide. I know it's not like 60 people committing suicide, but I would still count it as mass suicide if even 6 people all killed each other simultaneously.
Yeah.
Not literally simultaneously, but killed each other
Murder,
because of the same thing.
Yeah.
Or killed
Yes.
themselves.
Anyway,
It's
more
more than 3.
yeah.
Yeah.
Suicide.
But anyway, back to this main part of the story where Twilight eventually does go back to the home, and let's see, they tied up Fluttershy actually is when Twilight returns, and it starts to get a bit freaky, because she's literally going insane in a sense. And, Fluttershy is still yelling about how it isn't fair, how we're keeping her from them, and how they chose her and wanted her to come to them, and that they wanted to, and what they had shown her was beautiful. Maybe those whispers I heard were real, and they're louder for her. Maybe they're trying to tempt us all to come out. I won't let it happen. I won't let it end like this. I have to find some way out, which sounds like a song now. But,
Yeah, she was insane.
yeah, she goes insane
In fact,
literally,
they
and
were
then
all
one
insane.
night she just disappears. Essentially, Fluttershy, April 28th, Fluttershy is gone. I don't know how, but she's nowhere to be found. No windows are unlocked, and the doors aren't unbarred. She just vanished. She took some of the pages from my notebook about the research I found. I can barely even remember where I found them, and now it's gone. So yes, so Fluttershy disappears, and then
See, but that's
Yeah.
the thing, though. Surely that suggests... Sorry to interrupt, but surely that suggests that something is killing them, because if there's no way she could have gotten
there'd
out...
be a body if she was dead.
I know, but that's the thing, though.
Yeah,
if
but
it's
it could be
supernatural, they could have teleported her out, killed her somewhere else.
Magical being.
Or just eating her.
Can anyone
Yeah, they
anyone
could
just
have,
simply
completely
see the fact she
consumed her
disappeared
matter?
somewhere and she's gone from existence instead of dying?
I know, but I'm trying to...
If
Well,
you're
I'm
gone from
trying to figure
existence,
out
you're
what
basically dead.
Essentially, yes, but
Yeah, if
it's
she's
not
gone
just,
from
it's not
existence, then
murder
yeah.
going on. It's just disappearances. It's not explained how they die or if they die at all. It's just disappearances.
I know, but then why would they take them if they weren't going to do... there's no reason to take a whole village full of people for no real reason.
Exactly, but they don't give
Like-
us a reason in this. It's just
I know.
meant. The whole purpose of the story is just a creepy feeling with the unknown.
But I need closure, damn it.
Yeah, the thing is, it's up to the interpretation of the reader, and clearly Lightning's interpretation, as well as mine, is that these people are being murdered.
Yeah, normally in horror stories, I think the reason I've got this interpretation of it is because normally in horror stories, it's a supernatural force that comes and
Yeah.
it might just take them to a void, and they're all technically alive, but in some sort of weird middle ground between life and death. But the point is that they're still not in the world of the living anymore, or they're still not where they should be.
Yeah.
Is my
But
feeling.
anyways, it's kind of like I said though. It's not necessarily that they're being murdered; they just disappear. There's no explanation because it's left up for the reader, and I like that. Yes, I would love more closure with this story, but it's just left up for you. It doesn't say if they die or not. We're just assuming all this stuff about the story, which he has mentioned. He's considering making a story ending with more closure for like a sequel of it. Anyway, the very last page it talks about disappearances of arrested ponies. This is the last page written page in the journal. It is entirely print. No other markings are found on future pages. I blinked and Pinky was gone. Rarity started to yell about eyes watching her and the screams. I couldn't hear them. She cried. She wanted me to make it stop. I can't. She wanted to wake up. I want to too. Spike wouldn't say a word. I felt so cold even with the light, and Spike clutching me tight. The lantern started to go out. I closed my eyes to form a light, and Rarity wasn't there. It was quiet again. I did my best to comfort Spike. It felt so easy with the whispers gone. It was so easy to push him away into the dark. I had tried everything, and it was worthless. I struggled, and the chains became tighter. I tried to forget it, and it just kept coming back. Why did I hope when there was none to begin with? The light started to flicker now. I can't tell if I'm giving up or just losing strength. The face is there, at the edge of the light. There are a lot of them. They're all the same. They're smiling. They look so happy. I want to be with them. I can't keep fighting it. It's the truth, right? The end? No. A beginning? Yes. Their beginning to a better path. If you could only see, you'd know. This is what she meant. It was so beautiful. I'm ready. It's the only choice I have. And then giant scribbles, all else failed. I personally, so that is essentially what was going on with most of the story, actually. Right there, that last bit covers the disappearances and how it all happened, really.
It's very strange. That's why I think it needs more closure, because it does leave a lot to be interpreted by the reader, and that's good, but it almost leaves too much. It needs to have something like... Because, I mean, I've read a few stories where they do this, and it nudges the reader towards what you need to think in the end. And I'm not saying this doesn't do it. This does it quite well, but it doesn't nudge you enough, because I've still got way too many ideas about it.
Yeah, but
that can't really sum up because I don't know enough information.
Exactly,
about it.
But that's why
actually,
the writer said he would add a bit more closure. So I look forward to it, because I personally love this story. This is one of my favorite stories.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a very good story.
Now, actually, this is the interesting thing about this is that I read this and it actually reminds me of another story, and I'm almost certain that the writer of this probably I'd actually be a bit surprised if he hasn't seen this story before. It's a short story called N by Stephen King.
Again, Stephen King, anyways.
Yeah. I am a Mainer. Anyway, point is...
Is that what you guys are called, Mainers?
Yeah, Mainers.
Huh.
I had no idea.
It sounds so weird. I'm a Mainer. What? Sounds like you Maine people.
I actually have Stephen King's N in this random bookshelf. I just saw it literally up there on the bookshelf.
Nice, read it. You haven't read it yet. Read it. It's really, really good. But basically,
mini library.
The basic idea of it is a psychologist is talking with this guy with horrible OCD, who is only ever designated as N. It's all from the perspective of the psychologist's notes. And basically, it's this guy who, basically he went into this field and found a series of standing rocks, and ever since finding them, he's been slowly going insane and becoming more and more OCD. Eventually, it eventually leads to him dying, and when he dies, the psychologist goes out to the field himself. And from there, it goes from the case notes of the psychologist to the psychologist's personal diary, which slowly starts to deteriorate as he himself starts to suffer from the same insanity that the guy suffered from, including an obsession with numbers, to the point where he actually starts horribly misspelling in his own diary in order to keep all of his words at the good numbers and avoiding the bad numbers in the number of letters in a given word.
I want to read this story now.
Yeah, it is really freaky, but it's got the same feel of the personal accounts of someone going from being very professional to slowly going insane and eventually ending with a really kind of dark implication that something much, much worse is happening.
On a slightly psychological note, it's weird how people like these stories of kind of linking this back to Greece, they liked stories about descent into things. Like someone would be really honorable and then they'd lose everything.
Well, there's actually an interesting reason for the traditional Greek tragedy. I'll get into that in just a second, though. Continue.
Yeah. No, all I was going to say was it's weird how even today we still it's obviously it's slightly different from that, but I was using it as an example, that we love horror stories, and I know I do as well. I like this story because of the format it's written in, particularly like the case note type thing, or a diary in this case. I don't know, it's weird how we like this sort of thing, like this whole idea of writing stories about all the bad possible things that could happen.
It's interesting. I guess it's sort of a safe release in the same way that violent video games allow you to kind of get a bit of a violent release without actually having to hurt people or put yourself in a situation where you have to morally compromise yourself.
Yeah.
In reality. Though actually, it's an interesting point on the Greek tragedies. The reason for that is actually less to do with the traditional horror idea of, seeing a good person fall because, we want to, see this because it's sad.
We love to see heroes fall.
Well, the reason for the Greek tragedies is actually more to do with preventing tyrants. The idea is essentially both Greek tragedies and Greek comedies are all about great people falling, and the idea is essentially going, laugh at these people, do not take seriously people who are trying to, take power because they are either comedically silly or doomed to tragic irony.
Yeah, but
It's sort of a defense for the democracy.
And you can actually see that in, if anyone is really genuinely interested, you could read Ajax by Sophocles, because you can see it in there.
Yes, but shall we return to this story?
Quite well. But yes, we should stop getting off classics.
Anyway, personally,
fan
but like I
fictions,
said, I
yeah.
love the story because I love that dark, creepy feel to it. I love stories like that. I love the way it's written. I love how it, like you said it, with that other story, it transitions from a journal to more of a personal diary as you watch the changes go on. The other thing I really love about this is just a transition with April 16th when the guards get there, but they're gone, but Twilight is still writing this journal.
I think the transition between, where it goes from writing down notes to being a personal log of all the events that have happened, that transition is really, in my opinion, very seamless, and I do love the way it's written, I will say. But yes, were you going to say something?
Juha, were you going to say something?
Actually, I was mostly just going to wrap up my own thoughts on the story by basically saying N is one of my favorite short stories, and this story really captures the same feeling of really just unnerving creepiness. In fact, I actually I had put this on my to-read list for quite a while, and I ended up only reading it very recently, and I read it at night while I was alone, and I got really freaked out. By the end of the story, I was absolutely terrified. It helped that I was in a good mood for horror, and I was, in a dark room alone.
Yeah.
So that helped a lot, but it really managed to, get right down into my bones.
Yeah, did she say you had a window next to you or something?
Yeah, there's a gigantic window right next to my computer, and at night it basically turns into this giant black slate. Any lights on the room becoming little eyes, like glowing, essentially looking like glowing eyes in the darkness. You can just barely see out across the trees. It's God, it's creepy as hell. Anyway, Joel?
Yes.
What did you think about the story?
I think that he did execute the whole horror genre that he was trying to go for very well. I like the unnerving feeling you have when you get deeper into the story. I think that there's a lot of mystery that goes on, that it's open to the reader's perception, but I'll agree that, like you guys were saying before, that maybe he did a little much too much mystery.
Just a little more closure would be nice.
It can go any way that the reader can imagine.
Literally
but
anyway.
All in all, yeah. I would give it 5 hooves up, and recommend anyone to take a reading.
I would as well.
Of it.
Perfect. Yeah, I was going to say actually about the whole. I do think it was executed very well, and I read this before, like I was telling you guys, and I forgot that I'd read it. And when I was reading it back over, I was thinking, it's one of these run-of-the-mill sort of stories about like case notes or something. Yeah, and I remember I told you, and then it started to get into the horror bit of it, and I know you'd mentioned that it was a kind of horror genre, but I'd kind of forgotten that by the time I started reading, and it worked really well. That is the thing I'll say. Like, yes, it could do with a bit more closure, but apart from that, it's a really well-written story, and, not messing up, but, just lacking that tiny bit of closure. Overall, the story is very good.
Yeah. I think actually, a good ending that would give some perfect closure would be like the guards at the very end. Because this is all from the journal. If we go to the end and it goes back to the guards, they're like, "What is this crap?" and stuff like that. And one of them starts hearing whispers or something like that. and he just shoves it off or shrugs it off or something like that. I just think that would have been like perfect or something.
Like a good ending, AR is there.
I actually have a point to bring up
Yes.
then. You know the part, it's something that we didn't touch on, but the part where the investigation
Gets there?
team, there's the guard who is in the alleyway, and he relays back what he saw,
Oh, okay.
and there's that weird like screaming like figure thing.
When was that?
What is all that then? Because we haven't touched on it.
Yeah, we haven't touched on
and
what the
I
creature
want to know
was
whether
in
it's
the
pivotal
story.
on. Yeah,
I say it was Twilight herself, personally.
I mean that would make
gut.
sense as
That
well.
would, but
the whole like, didn't she look up in one of the books?
yeah, she did. She
about-
found something, but it was torn halfway down the
She
page
found something.
at an angle.
Yeah.
Okay,
The
then.
werewolf.
That was an unfitting noise. Anyway, let's see. Applejack tried to meet with things and trusted the investigator, but I wasn't convinced. That's when a scream came from a few streets away. This is April 14th, by the way. Came from a few streets away. We rushed towards it as quickly as we could and arrived at the same time as the two other patrols. There was only one guard, a broken lantern, and no sign of the others that were with him. He didn't even seem injured, just frozen in fear. Sugar Cane and all the other investigators were asking him what happened. While one of the other guards rushed off towards the hospital, everyone that had stayed inside was turning on their lights to try and get a look outside to see what happened. The guards tried to keep the curious ponies away and tell them to go back to bed, but the guard that was attacked just started rambling. He said he saw something just in the dark of an alleyway. It didn't look anything like a pony, and it was just staring at them for a few moments while another guard with their lantern moved closer. He said it screeched so loudly that his ears were ringing, that it sounded like a train screeching to a halt, and it lunged out of the alleyway at them, knocking the lantern away. He said the others were gone in a moment, but before they could scream, and it just sat there, staring at him. He just kept shaking and screaming about it, hearing it whispering to him. So that is one of the only descriptions we get of this creature.
Because they don't describe it in any more detail. That's where the more detail would be helpful. Because if they
Twilight has
described
more
what
detail.
exactly it looked like.
Yeah. Right here, April
Twilight,
19th
okay.
for Twilight. It says, this page is torn from top right to bottom left. It does not seem that whoever did so was trying to remove any specific information. The words along the tear are tentatively filled in based on partial letters along the tear. April 19th. The watch went fine last night, and everyone is feeling a bit better now and getting some actual sleep. I think I finally found something from ghosts, goblins, and ghoulish figures. There's a T there, but in parentheses you have the two O's, so two. Took a bit of searching, but I found something that seems to match what's happening. Is assumed. What is the word there? There's a blank space, a little bit. There's a legend from northern Equestria, back when the assumed Everfree, discovered some foresters and explorers were supposedly seeing Ode, which is O-D, and then Odd is assumed to be the word forest. They called them shadow walkers because they would only is assumed, corner of someone's eye. I know it's not a lot to go off of, and the legend isn't detailed as assumed how they do it, but it fits at least a little. Maybe that would help give more insight into it, but the whole is assumed. Scary story is more than anything concrete. Either is assumed. Except kept the page marked along with any others. Case gets unmarked. It's page 4, 6 or 8. Any other numbers are unknown. Anyway, there's actually some hidden text there as well. Yes, there's hidden text if you highlight certain parts of the story, which I loved.
Yeah.
The hidden text.
Oh yeah, that was good, definitely. Yeah, we didn't even mention that, but that's a
Yeah.
spoiler if you...
But essentially, that's the only description we get of this creature.
I would just quickly say, though, it's strange. If they did make... if the guy who wrote this did make a revised version with a more concrete ending, I think it would be nice. As nice as it is that the creature in question is kind of mysterious, if they revealed it fully, because, I mean, there must be another copy of the book that was being read there that all the information was taken from.
Yeah, I think it was actually stolen from Pinky or Fluttershy. But,
Yeah, exactly. So if there must be another copy of
Yeah.
it. So if they read that Also, you don't suppose it could be a human, could it?
I don't
'Cause, I mean,
think so. They're called Shadow Walkers, is what it's referring to. But
know.
also, the thing that really got me with the Shadow Walkers was weeping angels, because it said corner of someone's eye. I was thinking back to when Amy Pond had a weeping angel in her brain. That essentially came to mind with that.
Yeah. No, the only reason... I don't know why I thought humans, but I was thinking because they said walker as opposed to any other... I know, like, that doesn't really matter too much, but I think of, like... Yeah. But I just think of it being...
Vashta Narada.
Humanoid.
I don't know why I thought that. It was because they said it's like nothing we've ever seen before, so I automatically assumed that is what it would be.
Interesting, but...
Possibility.
I mean,
Honestly,
like, it doesn't...
though, I think...
It doesn't necessarily have to be like just a random old one. I mean, like, it could be some sort of creature that looks like
Humanoid,
one but isn't one.
Yeah. Again, I think we can speculate as much as we want, but I think in the end he's not going to reveal what this thing is, even if he does write a revised version of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'd say that if he, the direction of horror he's going in, it's less, big monstrous creature and kind of more
Unknown.
the style of horror kind of comes in more with the Lovecraftian. It's the most merciful thing in the world, I think, is the inability of the human mind to correlate all it contains. That sort of idea of this thing is beyond our ability to really deal with, and that's why it's scary.
Yeah.
No, I think it's definitely that. Wait, so we've said, it's basically a psychological story more than what I normally call like a jump scare sort of.
It's less a slasher or a creature feature and more a psych horror.
Yeah, I love those kind of
And that
stories.
isn't to say that slashers or creature features cannot be good. I mean, Alien is a wonderful example of an excellent horror film that
It just needs to be done well.
Yeah, it has to be done well.
But one last note I want to make before we end off this podcast is the condition of the town, where the journal was found on a desk that hadn't been removed from the center room, accompanied by a plain quill. The desk was stained with a few blots of ink. But also it goes over, the library itself was a mess with books, notes, and various supplies, including quills, inks, water, food, and lanterns strewn about the floor and on the shelves. They were, however, well arranged, leading us to believe that the pigsty, as one agent dubbed it, was not a potential case of breaking and entering. Anyway, they found the journal, but after that, the rest of the town was in similar condition, and some buildings were barricaded. But all were stocked with similar basic provisions and lanterns, with a few exceptions where the buildings were entirely empty. Several streets contained debris, but they only appeared to be shards of glass and broken lanterns, or pieces of wood torn from houses and storefronts. None of the actual doors and windows of any building broken to spared, but some interior. Anyways, where is it? There it is. No other substantial notes, writing evidence related to what occurred had been found. The town hall, however, was completely empty of anything not nailed down except for the mayor's office, which was in normal condition. That really stood out to me.
Strange that they would mention that, because it must be important somehow.
It is an odd point, and I think there's much more that could be said about this story, which is pretty impressive considering it's a pretty short story. Unfortunately, we're drawing up on 2 hours on what should have been an hour-long podcast.
If not shorter.
So, if not shorter. So I'm afraid we're going to have to call it for right now, and we will come back to talking about this and other things next week.
Yeah.
For From End to End, this has been Duhad.
I'm the Gothic Hippie.
I'm AR.
I'm Lightning.
Yes, he is.
And thanks for watching.
Like the stuff that falls from the sky.
It's always fun to have you around, and we'll see you next time.
Adios.
It actually goes from the ground up. Goodbye.